Module 2 of this JCPS series on PBIS, we'll discuss how a team is used to lead PBIS in the school. Throughout, it will be made clear that the job of this team is not to implement PBIS for the school, but to facilitate the school's implementation.
The challenge for implementing PBIS for us was the mind shift in behavior, and that going from what was the behavior is a reaction to what the student's doing to behavior is what can the teacher do to impact it and to shift that, and kind of puts it more in the hands of the teachers and the adults in the building and less on, we like to fault people. As human beings, we don't want to say it's our fault. It's their fault. It's their, they're doing anything for us. So it's the mind shift that we can't control. While we can't control everything that's going on in our students' lives, we can control the environment that they're going to walk into and how we react to problem behaviors and not discipline. I guess it is discipline, but how are we going to react to these behaviors and keep it positive
and consistent.
Consistency.
So I always make sure I listen to our announcements because I feel like she always puts little just bugs in the ears that way, saying, talking about if it was too loud in the gym while they were waiting, because again, I'm not there specifically. So that's one way I know that she does it indirectly. It's just talk about it. Because then, kids want to talk about what they saw or things like that. So I'm always very curious what the topic of the morning meeting should be because, I usually just don't know what it is, being that I came from my car and I'm in my spot and that's all I know.
I think when we initially started, one of our biggest challenges was how to involve the community, because that's one of the aspects. We really had little community involvement. And the way that our PBIS team took it on was not what the community can do for us, but what we can do for our community.
As a school-wide intervention, PBIS is not run by the administrator, it's run by the entire school. However, in order to make this practical, a PBIS team is created within the school. The PBIS team does not run PBIS. It acts as a representative body in the school to facilitate communication and action in a simple but comprehensive manner. While the administrator needn't lead this team, it is essential that the principal be an active member, lending credibility to the team's decisions. Ideally, this team is representative of the school. That is, the ideal team provides representation to all stakeholders. Each stakeholder should be able to look at the team and point to a member who understands his or her role in the school. Office staff, specialists, cafeteria staff, custodians, and any other affiliated personnel must be represented on the team. Clearly, if a student is misbehaving in the hallway and the custodian is the only one there, then we would want that person to correct the student. Likewise, if a student is reading a flyer in the office, we would want office staff to acknowledge the student. Thus, there should be at least one team member to represent non-certified staff. In addition, because instructional assistants, aka educational or teacher assistants, are generally larger in number and are heavily involved with direct student interaction, it is recommended that teams consider having at least one person on the team to represent this group. The remainder of the group should represent the instructional staff, teachers and specialists. This can be achieved across grade levels, content areas, hallway proximity, or any other method that produces broad representation.
My school, it starts with me, the PBIS coach, as well as the assistant principal are kind of the two heads of that. Then we pull in different grade level teachers, one from each grade level actually, a special area teacher, ECE, and we're kind of, like I said, the heads of the PBIS committee and kind of make the majority of the decisions, but with feedback from each one of those, because again, we're not in the classroom on a daily basis. So that's kind of how it works at my specific school.
So describe how your school got together to formulate what became your big motto and anchors for your instruction.
At my school, we actually did it in a faculty meeting, and I believe the admin stepped out of the room, so it was really just the teachers that were driving that conversation. And we were in table groups and just kind of partnered up, and each table came up with an idea, and we just kind of narrowed it down from there.
We did ours in a PBIS meeting, and our administrator brought some data from referrals and our negative hero points, and we looked at the top 4 things that students we thought really needed support with, or why they were getting, written up or whatever. So honesty, we saw there was a lot of academic dishonesty that was written out, so we knew that had to be one. Students opting out in class, so we tailored that to engagement. Lack of respect, or whatever that code is, and then we wanted to kind of tie all that together, and we got student input with this and other teachers. If we knew honesty, engagement, and respect were kind of our big pillars, something that could tie it all together that also started with an O for hero, and they came up with one family. And so when we do those 3 things, students can be, and teachers can be a part of that. But we use the referral data and hero data as kind of our top 3.
Because a PBIS team represents a new committee in the school, it is important that schools look at all committees to ensure that each committee has distinct tasks. A committee summary worksheet is useful in aligning the committee tasks and assignments. Because our goal is always to work smarter and not harder, we want to be sure that there is not a duplication of efforts across teams or committees. One major consideration for the team will be how PBIS will be a challenge for their school. This will lead directly to brainstorming of strategies for overcoming these challenges.
At Klondike, we try to involve as many people as we can on our team. So we have teachers as representatives, we have administrators, we have our principal, our vice principal, our counselor, our family resource center, our mental health counselor. So it's really important that we have all those different positions represented on our team.
So what we wanted our students to become was the clear indicators of what we would have our expectations be while they're at our school. And so we pulled it directly from that. And when we came back to the staff and talked about, because we looked at it as a team, looking at our vision, what those big ideas were, and then coming back to our whole staff and saying, we said collectively, all together, and we all agreed, this is our vision.
We meet at least once a month, and we download all the data from the previous month for our behavior, and we analyze that, and we make action plans, how we're going to, if there's one common area where we're having more referrals, what are the steps that we're going to take to prevent those referrals and those behaviors from happening.
So because we were paying attention to the hotspots, the places where activities were taking place over the course of the day regularly, we decided to make some changes to the master schedule as far as when interventions were occurring over the course of the day, and when transitions occurred, even down to, when certain grade levels had lunch and those kinds of things.
We looked at all that kind of stuff to see the common barriers, and we also look at data to see the common places. Are they mostly happening in the cafeteria? Is it mostly happening in the hallway? Is it mostly happening in a special area, on the playground? Where is it happening? And then we all try to come up with a plan, and then that means either someone from PBIS goes in and helps, or we try to get outside help, or assistant principal, or anyone coming in.
After the initial planning meetings at the start of the year, the PBIS team generally meets once each month and has 3 main tasks. The first is to evaluate progress towards any goals. For example, if the team had determined that a focus would be decreasing tardy slips in the afternoon, a first step would be to look at the total number of new referrals for tardies to see if there was a positive effect. If not, the team would determine how to revise the intervention. The second task is to look broadly across the data to identify any new hotspots or areas that are predictive of behavior. For example, if the team noticed that in the past month problems had escalated in the cafeteria at breakfast, steps will be taken to put prevention strategies in place at that time and place. The third task is to identify students at risk for larger failures by looking for students who have broken a set criteria for number of times being referred. As a general rule, teams should set their criteria for identifying these students at a number that would tend to identify 20% of students. These students will be considered for further assessment, which may include Tier 2 interventions.
Our students walk on the left-hand side of the hallway because we noticed that the classrooms were on the other side, and students trying to go forward and back on the same side were causing a lot of collisions, which then would escalate. So we changed it to where all students walk on the left. Then there's certain areas and they're dotted lines where they can walk across and cut across to their class.
Watch as this PBIS team addresses the brainstorming of strategies for overcoming these challenges.
Right now, you can see that we're really struggling with the cafeteria, where over 35% of our referrals are coming from, and that's just too high. So we know that there's expectations that aren't being met in that cafeteria, and that allows us to have the discussion of what we need to do to lower that percentage.
We start off with a calendar, and we start off the first 3 school days where teachers had to cover each of the expectations throughout the school day. Usually we set it up by period, where you cover one section of the building first period, next section of the building second period. And then we also had students create videos modeling and demonstrating what those expectations look like in different parts of the school building, where one's specific to the cafeteria and what's the expectations look like in the cafeteria and so forth.
We also wanted to make sure that we got support staff involved and check with people like the cafeteria workers and custodial staff as well.
Before moving to the next module, consider the following. First, discuss what full representation on the PBIS team means in your school. Who might need to be invited to ensure representation? Second, complete the committee summary worksheet to ensure that the PBIS team's responsibilities are distinct from other committees.